Welcome to the Bear Factory. My name is Jimmy Banish, and in this video we are going to be reviewing our tips and tricks as well as our general setup and guide through how to operate a Vortex Hurricane Mulching system. As you can see here, we have our Vortex Storm unit, which is our all-in-one system that includes the Hurricane Mulcher as part of it. Now, before you get started, the main thing you're going to want to review is identifying the type of adapter hood attachment that is going to be required when purchasing your mulching machine. Now, this can be easily identified just by looking at the different hardware that is installed on top of your machine. On this particular Vortex Storm stuffing machine, you can see that we have what we call our pressure clamp system. The pressure clamp system is going to be on all the stuffing machine models that have serial number 12,280 or newer. As you can see here, the older models utilize the toggle screw system. For all intents and purposes today, we are going to be reviewing the pressure clamp system, but if you wanted to have guidance on how to install the screw toggle, please reference our Vortex Hurricane video that can also be found on our YouTube playlist for training and support. What's great and convenient about the new toggle pressure clamp system is that you're able to just flip up these 5 toggles, making sure you stay clear of the electrical line for the LED sign. You pop them up, lift off your trap door. You're going to want to take your hood attachment and you're going to want to slide it in at a little bit of an angle, just because if you try to go straight down, you're going to hit those toggles because they're hanging over the opening. So let's go ahead and slide this in at a slight angle, paying attention to the toggles. Now be sure that you keep both hands on the adapter, as this is a little top heavy. So you can see as I just start to release off the top, it does have a tendency to want to fly backwards, and the last thing you want to do is bonk yourself in the head. So make sure you keep both hands on the adapter. We're going to press down the pressure clamps in the back first, which allows us to be able to take our hands off. And then you're going to go ahead and do the toggle clamps in the back. Now that we have our attachment mounted to our stuffing machine, the next thing we want to do is connect our hoses. As you can see here, by the way that we have this set up, you have your power button. If you look here to my left, this will then identify the intake for your machine. So this is where we're going to want to have our poly fiber sitting. And then you have your outtake that is strategically pointed towards the back of the machine so that it can seamlessly hook into the attachment. What's great is that everything to be set up is as easy as a quick push and turn, as we have these quick connect nozzles. So we just did our intake. Let's go ahead and hook up the outtake. And lastly, we are going to want to use our quick connect to hook into our hood attachment for the outtake. Next, we want to make sure that our power cords are connected into our mulching machine, which we are good to go here, followed by looking at the 2 different valves that we have set up on our hood attachment. It's really important to make sure that your valves are in the proper orientation, because if they're not, there's a good chance that your machine is going to clog, you're not going to be able to fill your machine, or you're going to start shooting fiber everywhere, which is fun for kids but not fun for you. To recap, you have your intake valve here for where your fiber is going to be being shot into the machine, and then you have your excess air valve. You always want to make sure that width is open, against is closed. So as you can see here, we have both of these valves currently closed. This is how you are going to want the orientation to be when you're actually stuffing plushies on your machine. Now that we're going to want to operate our Hurricane Mulcher, let's go ahead and open up our valves to get started. So we're going to open this up, and then we're also going to open this up. There are some times where if your machine has been sitting for some time, this red lever can get a little sticky. All we recommend doing is coming over here on this side and just moving it back and forth a few times, which will help loosen that up a little bit. Now that our valves are open, let's look at how to actually feed our mulcher properly so that we can build the right amount of pressure as well as fill this machine in under 1 minute. We want to make sure that we put on our nozzle filter before we start filling our machine. Even though we have an outtake valve here for air, if you don't have this on the nozzle, you will start to find that some of the fiber is going to shoot out a little bit, making a mess. Putting on your nozzle filter is simple. All you have to do is slide it on and then just doing a little hand tighten on the screw right here. To recap, our machine's plugged in. We have our valves open to be able to receive the fiber inside as well as the outtake. We've also put on our nozzle filter to make sure that no fiber is going through the front. And the next thing we're going to do is turn on the machine, and you'll see here that I'm going to be taking handful by handful amount of fiber to feed into this intake tube. What you'll notice is that every 3 or 4 handfuls, I'm going to put my hand on top of this intake hose. That's going to allow fiber to process correctly and also build some additional pressure. What you'll notice is if you're feeding it too fast, the amount of suction that you're going to have from this hose is going to start to die down a little bit. That just means that you're filling your machine too quickly and it's not giving enough time for the mulcher to process the fiber effectively. So let's start to fill up the machine a little bit. Now that we filled our machine with our mulcher, a tip that I like to recommend is to have your machine spinning, because as you'll see here, as I turn on the spindles, the fiber is actually going to drop down a pretty significant amount. And when filling your unit with the mulcher, we'll only fill it up about 90% full, because if you go more, you're going to find that you're going to start to get a lot more clogs in your machine that are going to need to be unclogged. So let's go ahead and fill this up more. So that is about the recommendation that I would have when filling your machine, just to avoid clogs. Now to recap, if you were to actually have a clog after initially filling your unit, all you need to do is unscrew the nozzle, stick your finger up into the nozzle receptor and push out that fiber clog and you should be good to go. Now let's run the scenario that you got a little bit anxious because you have a bunch of kids that are wanting to stuff their animals, and now you started to feed your intake too fast and you've either experienced a clog in the backside here or a clog up in the neck. I'm going to show you a quick method on to do a back flush that is pretty fast. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to try to replicate that right now. As you can see, I just filled it way too fast. You can see that there's polyfiber inside, there's polyfiber up in the neck. So what we're going to do is perform what I call a back flush. So to perform the back flush, what we're actually going to do is close the outtake, which is going to cause the air to shoot back inside while actually operating the stuffing machine. So let's go ahead and close this. And the next thing we're going to do is actually build pressure inside of the machine by tapping the stuffing mechanism on your Vortex machine. So make sure it's running. I'm going to just use the hand valve here. What you may have noticed is that the polyfiber was coming back through this, which is the simple way to perform the back flush. And if you wanted to start mulching again, go ahead and open your outtake valve, and let's go ahead and turn on our machine again. As you saw there, some of the fiber actually started to get stuck a little bit again. That's why you want to make sure you put your hand on top of the intake hose to build that pressure. Let's say some of it is able to clear, maybe only half of that fiber that was entrapped. Go ahead and just perform that same back flush again, and you should be able to clear it on the second route. For whatever reason, if you have a lot of fiber in there and you're not able to clear it with 2 successful back flushes, the next recommended method is to go ahead and just pull this off and manually clear through the top with your hand and the hose. If you do have to do a manual clear, I would first pull that off, put your hand in there, pull it out, and then perform a third back flush just to make sure that there isn't anything in there that you missed. Now that we've filled our machine, let's prepare it to be able to start stuffing some plushies. First thing we want to do is close these valves, followed by taking off the filter. Now that our attachment valves have been closed, our filter has been removed, we can go ahead and start stuffing. Make sure you engage your safety key, put your animal on. One quick little tip, when you're stuffing your animal, we found that you can actually allow the machine to more quickly decompress when you're done finishing stuffing just by using the filter of the enclosure bag rather than pulling the animal off and some of the fiber can start to sputter on the floor. Go ahead and zip our enclosure, pull off your Velcro tab, and we're good to go. That concludes our tips and tricks video for our Vortex Hurricane Mulching machine. If you have any questions or need any Vortex support, please feel free to check out thebearfactory.com and visit our business hub where our new training and materials page is conveniently located that has all of our Vortex support videos and tutorials, or go ahead and email directly vortex@thebearfactory.com for additional assistance.